Hi, and welcome to MDriven. This session I thought I should ask for your help to show MDriven Designer for someone that currently uses the Enterprise Architect from Sparx. Quite a lot of users use that one to handle the information design, but I don't really see the big wins with using a tool like that. That is more like a drawing tool than MDriven Designer, and I think that we need to help everyone to see the differences. So I'm going to start with a blank piece of paper and add a class, and I've thought of an example for maybe we have a school here with a name, and in the school there will be classes with a, well, it could have an attribute one, so the school would have multiple classes, and I will set the plural suffix to s on the package, so that I get the default extra s on all multi-links, but maybe that isn't good enough anyway, so I'm gonna set the manual name on that one. And in a class there will be pupils, right? And they will have a name. And like that. So that's the hierarchy of information, and I'm gonna, first I'm gonna save this file. So I'm gonna call this school, and then I'm gonna start a prototyper on it, and I want to save data in an XML file for this prototyping data, and I'll call that school as well, like that. And I'll start the system and I run the model and continue modeling like this, but there are really no menus because we haven't designed any views, and in order to get everything going really quickly and with as little overhead as possible, we introduced Autoforms. So we could just refresh the model and include the Autoforms, and then we get the Autoform, and we have a school seeker. So we search for schools. There aren't any, but there's an action to create a school, and we're gonna call this school A, like in the Soviet Union or something like that. Well, I just wrote the school A in the seeker form, and that wouldn't do any good. I should put it in the document form for this school, like that. And if I now search for things, I will find just this school. That's great. And if I double click it, I will get the document for that school. And there's a button here that takes me to the multi-link content of this association classes. But one good thing about Autoforms that you can influence how they should be rendered. So maybe I just, in this case, want the grid in place here instead of having this button. And then I will go on the association end and say that there are some settings for Autoforms here. Now it is default to own form, and that is what happens here when you press that one. But I would like it to be embed in document instead, like that. And if I model refresh, including Autoforms, the Autoforms will be regenerated for me. And also a new thing from today is that it keeps the document that you have open after a refresh. So yet another thing to minimize the administration that you have to engage in. Like that. So gonna create and add some classes to this school. Let's make them 3. And for each class I'm gonna save those 3. And for each class I will open up the auto-generated form for this class. And I'm gonna call this 1A. And the same thing here. I have the pupils multi-link in a separate form like that, but maybe I would rather just the same have them embedded in this form like that. And if I save the data and just do model refresh, I get that. And I could add some pupils here. Let's make them 3. And also this one is the backlink to from in this case the pupil to the class, like that. And if I save that and click in on one of the pupils, show pupil, and I'm gonna call this one Hans1. That's my name. Well, not one, but Hans at least. And Hans2. And Hans3. Like that. And having a hierarchy like this is very common, but it's also very common that you would like to see the aggregation. Let's say that you want to see all the pupils in the school, and that's a common use case. And then I could go about and do a derived association. So I click on that one and I say, click on that one and I say it's derived. And then it gets red and dotted, and you can on the end here say how it's derived by using the OCL editor. And the derivation should be like it's going over all the classes and then all the pupils. So we begin with getting all the classes, and once we have that, we do all the pupils, and then we're okay, we're a collection of pupil. Okay. So, and this might look crooked and not very nice looking, so we can just turn on the square line, and then it will always try to be like squared. That's better. Can do this for this as well. And if you at some point in your life has used rational rows to model information, you will recognize the short command for the square line, and it's Control-L, like that. And once we have done that, we could set on the derived association as well, that we rather would embed the Autoform for this multi-link embed in document. So now if we refresh and use the Autoforms, we will, if we find a school and we open up that school, we will see that it has 3 classes, but only one has a name, an attribute 1. And these are all the pupils. So let's go ahead and add another class. And this is 1B then. and we add some pupils there as well, and some name 1 and some name 2. Missed. Some name 3, and gonna save that like that. And what should happen then when we go back, we see that the sum of pupils are now 6, 3 in this one and 3 in that one. Okay, so considering that we might want to keep track on even more things, like let's say we have book, the book instance, and maybe we have the book title, and that's the title. So we associate these two to be like that. Each book has exactly one book title, and there may be many books of any given title. And we say that each book, the pupil may have many books, but each book may only have one pupil. And let's call this association and for like maybe caretaker. And all the book titles might be controlled by the school. And let's just embed that link into the Autoform. That, and Control L to make that squared, and L to make that squared, and L to make that squared. Oops, like that. So, and if I refresh the model, I can see that I also have the book titles, so I could add some book titles. Just create an ad. Let's add 3 book titles and open up this one, show the book title, and say that this is Geography. I don't know how to spell that. And this one is Math. And this one is Cooking. Like that. If I now were to look at one of the pupils, I see that, okay, this is still in a separate form, and I could just as well go here and say that this Autoform should be embedded in the document as well. Refreshing. And to find the books for Hans 1 here, I could search for them, but there are no books. We actually just created book titles. So what should we do then? Well, let's see. If we were to search for books, we see there are none. So we create some books. Let's create 4 of those. If I show one book, I can see that role book title must not be empty, but it is on these new ones. So I need to set the book title, and I can search for book titles, and I find the geography on math and cooking. Let's make this one cooking. And I can also choose to set the caretaker, and I will find all the pupils, and I can filter them on name, for etc. Maybe I want the Hans 1 and make that one the caretaker. You see here, it doesn't denote it as Hans 1, it just say pupil. And why is that? Well, we haven't said how to explain to the class how to represent itself, so it will just represent itself using the class name. But there's a default string representation, and this also is OCL, so we can just say that whenever you see a pupil and someone asks for a pupil in general without any precision, we're just going to use the pupil's name, self name, like that. And if I then refresh here, I see it says Hans 1. Maybe we would like to do the same on the book title. The default string representation for a book title should be the title of the book. And save that and refresh the model, and I have the cooking here. So what I would like for anyone that sees this video is to show it to someone that use the Sparx environment, and make them compare. It's really much easier to catch the requirements in the class part of the design if you also have the instance part of the design, if you can run the total app to see how things should relate. Otherwise it's really complex. Maybe a book would need a state machine. Let's add a state machine. So what are the states of a book? Well, in my school, the books came in all kind of states. They could be brand new, or they could be somewhat used, and they could even be beyond repair. So what we would like to do is the ability to know this state, and we need a trigger for this, and we're gonna call that mark as used. And mark as throw away. So a very simple state machine that sits here in this state, and let's call this state something like condition state. And I'm gonna save that, and when I refresh here, I see that there's a condition state here. And the thing is that it was empty because I forgot to whenever I have a state and introduce data, whenever I introduce a state on existing data, I need to take care to say what state should the existing data be. Well, it's the brand new state, I guess, because that's the first one. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say on the default DB value, it should be brand new. I don't need to put in a default value because that will happen automatically as a consequence of the state machine. It's just what will happen on existing data. So this one is, I can't do anything about that, but if I were to create new books now, a book seeker, and I would create the book, I would see that that would come up as brand new. Good. If I click open this book, I can see the transition mark as used. I'm gonna delete these books because I want them all to have state. And now it's interesting, because now I'm deleting a book that is connected to a pupil. That's name is Hans, and the title is Cooking. And then there's a delete warning. Because no one has made a decision for deleting a book while it's still connected to a book title via the book title association. Could that be the case? Haven't I made a decision what should happen when one of these is destroyed while this is set? No, I haven't. But I can click that one and I can make that decision in the model. The business delete rule, not decided. That's the default value. But I want it to need not be empty and no warning. That's fine by me. And also I'm gonna have this caretaker, and I'm gonna say the same thing, no warning. And having done that, I'm gonna press yes there, and then it's because the caretaker hasn't been updated yet. Yes, but I refresh this one, and if I now want to delete a book, it says just okay, because I have dealt with the warnings. This is very important requirement information that is very often missed, but not with the MDriven Designer. You get help to get it right, and you get help to find out what you need to do to be coherent in a when creating a complete requirement specification for an information system. Right. So if I create a few new books and save those, I can take one of the books and say this one is marked as used, and then it will be condition state somewhat used, but and also the new action is now possible to use, because the state machine has first you were in that state, and then there were no point in showing this one, because it's impossible to go from here to there in one go. You have to go past this. So this was the only trigger that was possible to choose. But once you end up here, this one is no longer possible to choose. The only one is this. So mark as throwaway. Now it's beyond repair. But of course, as always, you see that, well, it really wasn't beyond repair. It could go back to mark as used. Then we can use the same trigger, mark as used, and having done that, we can use the Control L here as well to keep things straight and neat, like that. Having done that and refreshing here, I see that, well, even if I'm beyond repair, I can go back to mark as used. I couldn't do that before, but after refreshing the model I can. And mark as throwaway, mark as used, mark as throwaway. So this is super fine. And of course, I'm able to catch a lot of business requirements in the guards or in for these state machines, and most of the logic that you before just coded in ifs and buts all around the place in your code now melts away and goes into clearly defined state machines that are easily read by anyone, really. And that's fantastic because we have no issue at all showing these state machines to users, and they immediately says what's wrong with them if they see something. That's an important find, to actually have a piece of paper or something on the screen that has no need for additional interpretation, but both the domain people, the peoples that are gonna use the system, or the requirement owners, and the developers know exactly what it means. We have the book and the book title, and the book we have here that we could set the book title by search and picking like this. But maybe it would be better if it just were to drop down. Maybe the book titles aren't that many. So then we could, on a single end of in an association, do the Autoforms and say it should rather be a combo box instead of a search and pick. And maybe we should do the same thing for the caretaker. It should rather be a combo box instead of a search and pick. And once we have done that, we will get this effect, that I can set the book title to cooking and the caretaker to Hans 1 immediately. Like that. So, just for the sake of argument, say that each book title has a value. That should be a nullable double. So that would mean that we could calculate all the value of all the books in school, right? How would we go about that? Value of all books, and that type would probably be also a double nullable. The value of all books, well, we want that to be derived. So we're gonna set the attribute mode to derived, and the derivation OCL probably just should follow the link to the book titles and sum up its value. So all the book titles and the value, and let's sum that up. I wonder, will that work? I'm gonna refresh the model, and I'm gonna search on the school and see if, well, the school value of all books is 0. That would make sense because we haven't actually set any value on a book title. So let's click up a book title and set this value to 10. And that value to 20, and that value to 40. And as you can see, it sums up as we enter the values. But this might not be true. The value might not be as easily calculated because these are the titles, and this is actually all wrong, because we need to take into account how many books we have of these. So again, quick but not correct. So we need to take care here. The value should actually be multiplied with the number of books of that title. And how do we go about that? Well, for each book title we want to do something, and that's a good place to use an iterator like collect. So the collect will see each book title, and we can introduce a loop variable. Let us call that book title, BT for short, and a pipe sign. Now we can use this loop variable bt dot value. Well, that's the value of one book title, but we want to multiply that by the number of books for this title. So you're going to take this times the book title and follow the link to books, and well, I guess we need to take the size of that collection. So and this says this will be a collection of doubles, because the collect will collect this value for each book title, but that's fine, and we can just sum that. So that will be a better way to denote the value of all the books in the school. Well, now it's just 40. How come? Well, we don't have books of all titles. Let's see what we have books of. The book seeker, and we have one for cooking, and this one is not set at all, and then they are flagged as having an issue here. We can also flag things ourselves that we want to signal are not correct according to our business rules. We do this by introducing constraints on the class. Let's see. I click the class and I choose constraints. I'm going to add a constraint, and I'm going to call it book must have value. So the expression is that it should be true, and if it's true, it's okay. The moment it isn't true anymore, it will be, in this case, in error or a warning or information. Let's call this one an error, and so let's check that self.value is bigger than 0, and parenthesis here, and self.value not null, like that. And the description hey, and then we could use the string representation of the book needs value. Okay, and if I were to refresh the model, and this was a book title, so let's search on the book titles geography, and this has 10, but if that would to be null out, it'd say, hey, geography needs a value. Okay, then I will say 0. Well, that's technically a value, but apparently I didn't allow it. Maybe I should. Maybe geography books are worth nothing. I'm not sure. So again, this is the dialogue that you will need to have with your domain to decide what are the business rules. And let's say that it's okay as long as it is not null. I'm gonna save that, and yes, I want to save even if it's, according to this model, wrong to have 0 here. I'm gonna refresh that one, and now it's not wrong anymore because that's 0, and that's okay. The only thing that's wrong is if it were a null, and I don't like nulls apparently, so I discard these changes, and then I set this one to 20. Well, maybe this rule isn't good enough anyway, because maybe your domain says your super user says that, well, we can't take full price for really old books, so we need to have some way to decide if it's used, and if it's if it's a throwaway book, then we shouldn't count it at all. So let's filter some books away. And to filter things away, we can use select. So here we have a list of books, but we don't want all of these books. We only want the one with a specific condition state. So select. And then we have an operator. And let's set a loop variable here because it's a good practice. Let's set B for book and a pipe sign. Now we can use the book. And the select is also an iterator, just as collect is an iterator. So this book, we're gonna check. There's an operator called OCL is in state. Let's check if the book is in state of what? There's a new function that helps us find the available states. If we stand somewhere where we find the context of the book, we get the show state diagram, and now we have them here. So beyond repair apparently is the one we're after. Let's paste in that one. Beyond repair. And we spelled it wrong. Don't know why. I think it should be like that. So, and now actually we only select the ones beyond repair, but it should be not beyond repair. And having done that and rereading the model, we should get the effect that if I bring up the school and we see the total value of books, it's now 0. If I hold control down while I let's seek a pupil, and giving this guy some books like these 3, and then I would expect, okay, now we have books there, but let's see, what was this? If I show that book, oh, it didn't have a title. Let's make that a cookbook. Back. And this one, no. Show book. This one can be math. And this one I think we already had. That was cooking as well. So now we have a value of 60 of books in the school. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but what I would like your help with is showing these things to users of Sparx. And even if MDriven Designer doesn't have as many types of diagrams and possibilities to just draw things as Enterprise Architect, it has something completely different, and that's the ability to actually work on the information you design. And at least to me, that's very valuable, because as soon as you start to work on the information that you're trying to draw, then you really find the requirements, and it helps your thinking, and it's easy, and it's very explicit. Once you return to it, you can immediately understand what things mean. So keeping it really simple, which we need to do because the complexity is not in each detail. Each detail should be really, really simple. The complexity emerges from the total amount of details. So please take a moment and try to get a Sparx user converted to an MDriven Designer user. Thank you very much.